Welcome to the Victory Project podcast, undoing hopelessness with a godly purpose, love, and accountability. Since 2009, we've believed it's less about what we do and more about what we undo through education, entrepreneurship, and enlightenment. You're here because you believe a city on a hill cannot be hidden. Let's shine that light. Let's build victory together.
Welcome to the Victory Project podcast, season 2, episode 7. We've got an amazing guest, John Oliver, Air Force veteran and former Victory Project executive. Before we dive in, I'll introduce who we have here helping co-host and host the show. I'll be your host, Keyshawn, Senior Program Director at our high school campus. To my right is one of our awesome students, Antonio.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You mentioned earlier that you started driving today?
Yeah. Yep.
What's the biggest fear of driving, getting behind the wheel?
Crashing into somebody. Really, honestly.
He's honest. All right. Then across from me is no stranger to the podcast, Dezzmon. How you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Can't complain. You're about 3 weeks into school, so hopefully it's gotten a little bit better, right?
Yeah, pretty easy. All my homework's done, so nothing to really do but wait till the next day.
Okay.
All right.
Got everything together. Then our guest, John Oliver. Thanks for joining us on the show.
My honor, definitely.
And before we jump in, I'll read a bio. John Oliver has been married to Rhonda for 37 years and has 3 sons, Aaron, Stephen, and Joshua. He's a retired colonel for the Air Force after 26 years. He's held several positions after retirement, including a substitute school teacher, federal employee for the Air Force, and a consultant with Athletes in Action and Crew Intercity. He's also a former program and executive director at Victory Project and currently serves as a deacon at Lighthouse Baptist Church in Xenia. Wow, very, very impressive. And we'll start with the life in the military. If you could just tell us a little bit how you got involved in the military and what are some things that led to your success?
Yeah, man, success, that's a good word too to throw out there. I wonder if that's accurate. But I would just say this. First of all, man, just what a blessing to be here. Thank y'all for inviting me. Real quick, Dezzmon was one of my first students 5 years ago.
Wow.
So when I sit here think about when I was a program director, the Dez is here still rolling, man, just makes me very proud and glory to the good Lord. So yeah, I went to the Air Force based on a need to get through college for free. I was the youngest of 4. My sister was already attending college, calling my mom weekly for money. And I saw the stress on my mom's face and I was like, okay, I got to get through college for free. And what a blessing it was with my junior ROTC instructor. He was also my baseball coach. I was a baseball player in high school. So he worked that out. I got a scholarship and what a blessing it was just to be able to go for free. Had to major in sort of a tougher subject, engineering, but that opened doors for me. And when I graduated, I was a lieutenant. And honestly, I wouldn't have told you that I was going to do 26 years. Part of it was survival, but part of it also was I was having a good time and doing okay. So yeah.
That's awesome. And 26 years of service is crazy. So what's one challenge you faced while in the military?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question because you face multiple challenges, in life. But one of the cool things is we got married. Rhonda and I got married literally a week before I came on active duty. So we got married in Florida. 1 week later, we're here in Ohio. Newlyweds, trying to figure it out. So that growing as a married couple, learning about each other while also trying to achieve and move forward in the military. One of the things about military is they sort of own you once you get in, right? You sign this contract and that just means you're beholden to their needs, probably first and foremost a lot of times. So balancing that was a big deal. And one of the cool things I tell my sons now, and I'll tell you young men, you'll get put in situations a lot of times where you don't feel qualified. You don't feel equipped. And that was where I would say probably a third of my career. People laugh a little bit because, I made Corona. I was very blessed in that regard. But I'd say probably a third of my career was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I got to move forward. I got to press forward. Definitely led me to pray more. As the Bible talks about, man, when I'm weak, Paul said this, when I'm weak and I'm in a position of not really having it, that's where my dependence upon the Lord is even greater. So I would say it was those situations where I'd walk into jobs. There were, like I said, quite a few where I was not as experienced or equipped, I felt. And in almost every case, I did really well. So
Okay. I know from learning about the military rules that it can be really, really challenging. And I have respect for the pressure and responsibility that comes with serving in the military. But with that being said, when you were active in the Air Force, what helps you keep a positive outlook on things?
yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So definitely faith. You'll hear faith and family. And so Rhonda was awesome. You guys know Rhonda. She's one of the all-star volunteers here, which I love. But she's a high achiever. And so she was in my corner every step of the way. And my mom, she's deceased now, but she was a huge fan of mine. So if you have someone in your corner encouraging you and pushing you, it's almost impossible to fail in my mind, right? Because in all fairness, I'll tell people it really wasn't my accomplishments. It was who I was or who I am. And so that's what I always got from both of those folks. But yeah, definitely faith. I mean, I've been blessed in a lot of my assignments and in environments. And my prayers for you two young men, I'm guessing that's sort of the case. Y'all are members of VP. But what you tend to do is you tend to blend with people who are of like morals and those types of things. So a lot of my assignments, I literally had various Bible studies, mostly with men, but there were some mixed where there was that support system. And so there was probably a few times and few scenarios where I was really alone. It's like, man, you're just doing this on your own. And when you go to work, or for you guys, like if you go to school or in other environments where you're like, well, I'm the only one out here. Rarely did I ever feel like I was the only one. So that's always an encouragement as well. And that helped me.
And then Antonio, what do you want to do after high school?
I want to be a Army sniper.
All right.
Army sniper.
Definitely. Yeah. So my encouragement to any of you young men, and I apologize, I should remember the one student, but I was so encouraged by one of the high school students who just graduated, and he immediately had a plan to go into the Army. He told me he was going like a couple of weeks after he graduated, definitely within a month. But what I would encourage you guys and challenge you guys is that dream you have now. And what year are you, Antonio?
Sophomore.
Sophomore. Okay. So man, perfect time. Do y'all have JROTC at school?
Yeah.
So you get in there and get some of the training. Are you a member right now, JROTC?
No.
So I'd encourage you to take a class because you can and enroll. That'll be good for you. But to be committed to doing what you've moved forward in doing. And the other thing, which is always important, is always having a plan B and C, right? Because a lot of times, we sort of have an idea how we're going forward, but God really charts our plan. But wanting to be a sniper and training towards that and the way you live day in and day out is awesome. Being a member of VP already gives you a leg up. So, yeah.
And the student, his name's Darion. He was actually on our podcast.
There you go.
And he just finished basic training.
There you go.
So now he's going to his occupational training as well before he gets stationed.
So during your time as a consultant and substitute teacher, how would you say that has impacted you mentoring the young men at VP?
Man, love the question. I don't know who set these questions up, but kudos to them. Beautiful. Man, so I get, as y'all can tell a little bit, I get passionate and excited about engaging people, but really young people in particular. So, man, just being a substitute teacher in the Xenia, Tip City, and Beaver Creek is where I substitute taught. After I retired, after being out for about a year, it's like, I got to do something. Ron was like, you can't lay around the house all day. You got to do something. So I started doing that. But just seeing the look in the young men and the students' eyes at school and the fact that I came to learn that they really wanted to hear and they really wanted to grow and they really wanted to learn. So however you can connect with them, right? And so I use humor, always try to stay with the basics of, reading, writing, arithmetic, and those types of things. But by doing those things, it was an encouragement for me. Number one, like I said, knowing that the students really wanted to hear from you. They really wanted to learn, and there's a need, right? So that's one of the things tied to VP. I wrote up a whole bunch of stuff about time here at Victory Project and before and after, and really what drives and has driven my wife and our son, who faithfully serve and tutor at the middle school campus, and Rhonda over here. But the things that have them being committed to serving, and me as well, is like there's a need. We feel that we're making an impact and making a difference. I continually say the young men at you guys' age, demographics and those types of things is probably the underappreciated, undervalued people in society. So that just gets me excited because I want to go where that need is. So it's all those types of things that led me to want to be a part of VP. And then, once we got here, I mean, it was crazy, but you could just see, just like Mr. Keyshawn and the other program directors, just their passion and their commitment to being a part of this. It's bigger than the individual. So it's bigger than myself, bigger than any of these folks, and we all feel, I think if you go to everyone, they'll tell you they feel it's a calling from the Lord. So, yeah.
Was there a challenge from going from that military environment to now working with the youth, working with the young men?
Oh, man, another great question. Yeah. So I still laugh, man, because my last assignment, I was a group commander overseas. I was on that Air Force base. I was probably what would be like the third person in charge, right, of the base. And so I had my own car. They treated us too good, but it was like you're on top of the world, right? In many ways. And so I come here I substitute teach, but I also come to the Victory Project. And one of the first things that struck me is when I did the interview and the students were interviewing me, right? And I'm like, man. So on one hand, I was like, these snotty-nosed kids are interviewing me. I'm like having to pass their test to work for them, right? And that kind of thing. And but when I went through that interview, and I told Mr. Monty, the staff, everybody, that was the best part of my experience really coming into it. But having these young men interview me. And then there was an element of humility day in and day out. I think if you talk to John Rohr, he's probably the one guy who would know. I struggled early on. There were some battles, so to speak, maybe some mental battles with some of the students because I learned the element of respect tied to interacting with these young men. I love what I see now when I come back here, but I'll say this was back in 2021. You had to earn the respect of these guys relationship wise. Old school, some of us old school people's like, hey, that's an adult. Automatically, I'm respecting them. I'm going to call them Mr. They're going to be right, even if they're wrong and all those kind of things. So there was a lot of that growing that was required. I think on both parts. I'll credit this organization. There's some things that I just see, like I said, coming back that have transitioned a little bit, which I think is really right on the money, tied to these young men having respect for adults, having respect for authority, which ultimately leads to them having respect for themselves. So yeah, the challenge was honestly, it was a humbling thing. And I would say God's been so good to me since I've been out that there's a constant area or period of humbling and keeping me grounded in where I come from, right? I'm the youngest little small boy from Melbourne, Florida, nothing special about me. So one thing about VP, I think the students would definitely make it known to you there's nothing really special about you.
So what influenced you to stay serving at Victory Project for as long as you did?
Yeah, man, just the passion. And once again, knowing or feeling, I'd say feeling that I was making a difference. I've told Monty and said recently, and I say it now, man, just the work environment, right? So you come into an organization where you're on Wednesday, you're doing a staff Bible study. I don't know of any organization out there that does that. I'm sure there's some, but I don't know of any. I'd never worked with any. Staff is doing a Bible study. Just the structure of Victory Project, really everything in my mind on point. Clearly, God inspired the way the ministry and the organization has rolled forward. I've said it before, and I continually say the volunteers are like the force multipliers. And the volunteer, you won't find a better volunteer force so committed than what Victory Project has. So all those things together are what really inspired me day in and day out. And much like military service, it's hard to do, and I don't think any of these guys really do it tied to ministries. It's hard to do like an 8 to 5 or 40-hour week, right? You're just, you're sleeping, living, breathing. I get excited. I'll tell on Keyshawn right now, but I'll see him at the gym sometimes now with students. They're working out, during the summer. And I'm like, man, so that big brother mentality that these young men have from the staff and that the staff has back to them is awesome. And it isn't, it's life changing. So we're talking about one of the students who just went off to the military. I know there have been alumni that have come back. Those stories, man, they're life changing. So yeah, it's just a blessing to be a part of that. That's what kept me here.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about how it's been since you were on staff as a PD and a executive, but now volunteering with your family, how that's been a different change?
Yeah. And by the way, I think that shows I'm going to say the staying power is probably not the right term, but the connectivity with VP where when I think when it gets in your blood, and I said this years ago, it gets into your blood, it becomes a part of you as like family, right? And so being as a program director, I'm one of the old guys. So when my physical body would break down from the PD thing, I think I probably enjoyed that most, honestly, just being with the students. That's tough work, but being with the students and being connected with them. But then transitioning to being an executive director was a blessing and things just lined up. It was definitely God inspired, but the notion there was taking care of the staff, right? Making sure the staff was equipped to do what they needed to do. And I am probably most proud that you, John Rohr, and Lynn are still here. I just still, boggles my mind and really shows the power of the Lord, but also the impressiveness of this organization. So the continuity to now just volunteer, and I say just volunteer because I know how important volunteers are, but the continuity tied to that is awesome to come back in, on a monthly basis with my wife and folks from our church to serve, to be greeted and welcomed. And every time I see these young men, and I tell you guys every time when I come back in, and I told Monty this many, many years ago too, that the need or the kids, the young men are going to always be there. I mean, it's almost, I won't say a recycling, but they're out there, right? But when the guys show up faithfully, it's been really impressive what y'all have done over the past year. Just the consistency of these students showing up, that gets me excited. And yeah, so as long as we're here in Ohio, Rhonda's retiring at the end of September. I'm trying to get her to go south, honestly, really, but I don't know when she's going to budge. But as long as we're here, we want to be connected. So yeah.
So was there any trial that tested your faith?
Man, that's a good question. So I think I'd say there have been quite a few, but I will just tell of a recent one. I'll speak maybe in general terms, but the one thing tied to my faith, and I can connect to the VP, but I could connect it to you guys as well, is, God owns everything, right? So, and we're going through some studies, church, and some one-on-one things about stewardship. So God owns everything. He's allowed us to be stewards of what he owns, right? So Monty, Mr. Bush has been allowed to be the steward of Victory Project and the staff, and then you guys, that whole thing flows down. So if you ask parents, ask folks like myself or Mr. Bush or anybody else who's a parent, their kids are most critical to them, right? They love them. Almost, it's like, I'll die for them, right? So I'd say the challenge in my faith that's, been probably recently is tied to our last few years, had some challenges with our young men, our sons, and as they grow into adulthood. And without getting into big time details, I will say what God showed me through all of it as I was maybe in sorrow or in prayer and those types of things. It was like, man, I actually own them, right? He owns all us. And he just allows us to be stewards of what he's given us. And so he basically showed me that he loves my sons. He loves you guys. He loves me more than I do, right? And so it was like, if he's the great God that I believe he is, and the Bible tells me he is, and I trust that he is, then I should have peace with that. So I'd say that's the biggest thing. Whenever, I've suffered or struggled through feeling sort of sorry for situations or wanting things to change, just having that faith that God has it ultimately. And if he's the owner and the steward of it all, if he's the owner of it all, he's just allowed me to be steward. I have to trust that the one who owns it all will do the right thing. So yeah, that would probably be the biggest thing. If anything goes down with my family, that's when I get excited. So
regarding your current job, how's your faith developed from your time as a teenager to you now as a deacon at Lighthouse Baptist Church?
Yeah, man, appreciate that question. Yeah, so I didn't become a Christian until my first year in college. So I'm one of these guys, and one of my connectivity to VP honestly was because of my upbringing. I came from a broken home twice. My mom was divorced twice. So even seeing a lot of that instability, a little crazy, trying to figure it out. You guys know how it is as teens, and there's a lot of questions you may have, or a lot of things that you're sort of wandering. And when I was a first year in college, someone came around and shared the gospel clearly to me. The fact that they were all sinners, I understood that there's a payment for that sin that God requires, and that he sent his son to die on the cross. So the notion of Easter and Resurrection Sunday, all that stuff started making sense. And these folks did an amazing job of just laying it out from the Bible verses. And so when I invited Christ into my life, asked him to forgive my sins, and have grown, I mean, it's been 43 years now, but just growing in that and seeing him being faithful has been so very important. I am convinced, I have a little acrostic that talks about leadership is about being a servant, right? Servant leader. So being a deacon that's what it's all about, right? You get phone calls, you do things that sometimes you smile about, but it's just serving, right? Serving God's people. And here at VP, I would say the staff, my time here, Bonnie himself and others, the volunteers that come in, it's all about serving, right? And they serve ultimately God, but they're serving you guys. And one of the things that we always try to stress, and I know staff still does it, is like you guys being thankful that folks are coming in serving you guys, because they actually have a choice, right? They have a choice of like not coming. And so the fact that they do choose to come and interact should tell you guys how special you guys are. Yep.
That's good. And then If you think about your many years of experience as a Christian, back to, you said, first year of college,
Yep.
what are some things that you learned that help grow your relationship with Christ?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, one of the key things is we don't see as God sees, right? So one of the biggest things is in life we try to forecast, and a lot of us are visionaries and have these optimistic, forward-leaning kind of views of things, right? How we're going to go. You want to be in the military. Are you trying to get into music? What do you want to do, Dez? I know you got a lot of different
Music.
so music and those things. And so one of the challenges that I've learned is a lot of times we see what success looks like. We envision, let me just say that, what success looks like. And God doesn't see as we see, or we don't see as God sees. So one of the things I've learned over these years is that, I may foresee an outcome being a certain way, and God's like, no, you don't have it, And so that's an element of faith. So that faith thing for me has been leaning on and trusting that God's way is the right way when I can't even see it. Right? We're actually doing a study in Hebrews now that talks about faith. And so that's been one of the biggest things I've learned. Also to not like stress, right? So the Bible says that God will keep us in perfect peace if our mind is stayed on him. And one of the things that your current generation, Antonio and Dezzmon, man, bless you guys, but all the stuff that's out there social media wise, it is hard to keep your mind stayed on God, because there's so much activity tied to these things, right? And so that's one of the things that I'd say, and it's been neat now being in my, I call it unpaid career. It's really retired, but that's a dirty word, right? So in my day to day that I have more time, it's like, man, keep your mind stayed on the Lord, right? Through studying his word, through interacting with folks like you guys. I'm engaged in a couple groups, disciple veterans. I meet with veterans on Tuesday nights, Bible study. It's awesome. They're not much different than VP, snotty-nosed teenage boys. And then meet with some guys on Wednesdays. We call it finishing strong. These guys are we call it the fourth quarter of life, right? So we want to finish strong. So all those types of things tied to serving, but also just tied to being trying to be a good steward of what God has laid out for me. So yeah, I've been blessed. I got a lot more to go, and just, thankful to be able to talk to folks and engage young people, but old people as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Think about Dezzmon Antonio. You mentioned a good point about what are some ways that you guys navigate this era where there's so many distractions, the phone, the social media, all that, but you try to stay focused on what's really important, your priorities.
For me, I'd say, because mainly, I want my career to be music. So whenever like someone does something to like try and irritate me or get reactions out of me, sometimes I fall for them, but sometimes I just pick up my instrument and do what makes me happy. Just get my mind off of it.
Yeah, I'll say for me, like with the social media stuff, like my parents keep me on like a pretty good track and like away from most distractions. So it's pretty easy for me to stay focused on like my future and building up to my future. So, and also something else that keeps me focused is just like the thought of me living out a dream that I had since like a long time ago as a kid. Just the thought of me living that dream out keeps me on the right path too.
That's good.
Both really good. Yeah.
Really good.
Dezzmon, we had a great conversation yesterday. You won't believe the screen time this young man has on his phone. It was in the teens, I'll say that. But
teens of hours, you mean?
Yeah, per day on average. Yeah. So hopefully this conversation produces some fruits.
Wow.
Yeah, my phone be overheated and dead by then.
Yeah, reading is okay also, right? So that's one of the things where, reading books, physical books is okay. So
then, John, you mentioned some of the Bible studies with the veterans and finishing strong and AIA. Can you talk about how you got involved and what made you want to get involved with these ministries?
Yeah, so one of the things I'll encourage these Antonio and Dezzmon as well, but keeping your eyes open and seeing needs that are out there, and then trying to be available. So one of the things that a really good buddy of mine and I talk about is having the ministry of availability. So, because we do have choices, right? You can go into a little bit of a huddle or a cocoon. We have a nice basement at our house. I could go and hang out there all day. It's funny, I haven't been down there much lately, which is good. But yeah, through our church, our pastor asked, and which is pretty cool. He asked about a year and a half ago, hey, John, would you be willing to like lead this veterans ministry? And so I've been just overwhelmed at the need that a lot of the folks who've served in the military, there's a loneliness by a lot of them, and there's a hurt from a lot of them from past experiences. And so that's been a real blessing to do that. And that was, like I said, a request. Then our Finishing Strong group is a unique group of about 8 of us, various backgrounds. I mean, we meet, and one of the cool things there is we meet over near Cedarville, but we're meeting at a guy's house who has literally been on a hospice, which means he's preparing to die, right? right? So he's having home care hospice. And we meet weekly there and we do a Bible study. And that's been phenomenal. We've been doing it for about 2 years now. We thought that would go just for a short period of time. So yeah, it's about serving. Keyshawn, we talked about that, right? It's about serving and trying to be available and then trying to keep your eyes open. And I was telling a young man this morning, we talk about being good stewards and we talk about our resources and we talk about our time. One of the things that we also have to be a good steward of is our talents. And so a lot of times, God has enabled both you young men. He's giving y'all gifts, and the prayers that y'all will to live out those gifts, right? Share those. Both you guys are great communicators, share those things out with other people. That's what I'm trying to do in those areas. So yeah.
Awesome. And I know there's a camp that you're involved with, Jam Camp, that some of our youth at Victory Project. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how it aligns to make these young men better?
Yeah, and that's a God thing too, man. Just to be connected with that and then be connected with Victory Project. So Jam Camp stands for Jesus, Athletics, and Manhood. And there's just that whole connection is right on the money. But in essence, we try to use athletics, teach about manhood, right? But really to point folks to Jesus Christ. And it's for high school, really, mostly inner city guys. So we have guys coming in from Detroit. We have guys coming in from Kentucky, and we get mostly Dayton folks. We've had folks come as far as Houston as well. And we've had guys coming from Cleveland. So the cool thing is that camp has been going on for now 11 years. This year was the 11th year of the camp. And it's neat. It was neat. Number one, back in 2022, I think, Monty and at the time Dylan, they allowed us to take the Victory Project kids there. So we took the basketball team there once. We took the whole Victory Project. It was during the summer. So we took like 24 guys there and they stayed overnight. And we did some training and all those types of things tied to manhood. But I think just the pouring into you guys, you young men's lives is what's important. And if nothing else, man, that shows how important you guys are. But yeah, it's a blessing to connect all those things, right? I do love to encourage and to teach and all those types of things and just love sports, right? Like a lot of us do. So yeah, it's important. So Dezzmon, you went once, right? What would you say? Let me ask you a question. What would you say was a takeaway or you most remember from your time there?
I mean, I wasn't really used to like the athletic background because I didn't really play much sports. But when I went, I mean, again, we were kids, so we were trolling a lot. So it was a game we played, and then the coach the next morning woke us all up at like 4, and we had to do like a hike up to one of the fields, and then we exercised like the whole time on our way back. And it was just like crazy because I didn't think we'd get in that much trouble for doing a game or something. So my takeaway, don't play a game. Don't play a game.
I would tell you,
test in the water.
That was I probably was most proud of VP students when that happened. And real short story on that is they were goofing off at night and Coach T got them because they weren't sleeping. He said trolling, that's what you call it. Okay. They weren't sleeping when they were supposed to be. And he said, okay, you guys are taking away my sleep. So he got them and had them march at 4 a.m. And I remember when he made everybody get up and a couple other staff people were with him. I remember thinking these kids are going to break. They're not going to make it. I was with them a lot through the VP time. So I'm like, they're just not going to make it. And it was amazing. We were out for about an hour and a half marching. He had them doing they made it. And when we got back, and one of the cool things I still share with Coach T Torres is they'll talk about some of this stuff sometimes. The boys, I'd be around there like, you remember when we got up at like 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and he had us march around the campus? And there was an element of, I think, pride in that y'all achieved that and accomplished that. And like I said, I was proud of you guys because what it told me, and hopefully it tells you, is there's a lot more in us than we think, right? And a lot of times we don't get pulled. And I think that's what VP definitely tries to do with you guys with the requirements. That's what I love, right? It's not automatic. Nothing's automatic, right? So the requirements to achieve, right? Meritocracy. That's a big word. I like it. That's required. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember visiting the last couple of years, and I get out and all the boys just run to me. Not only are they like 3 or 4 shades darker, so they bound us up. They made me do 200 push-ups, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, there was one year where a guy got baptized, and they came back and just rock stars, right?
Yep.
And they tell about the stories and brought a brotherhood. That the struggle brought them closer together and closer to God. So you can't complain about that.
Yeah, I love it.
The fruit from it. I'll ask this question, then we'll do our question and go around. This one's for Antonio and Dezzmon. When you see someone who was a staff member for several years and then they're not longer a staff member but continue to volunteer consistently What impact does that have on you guys?
It lets me know that they still care. Like they were here for a long period of time, gave up their time to be with us, help us, mentor us. And so it just lets me know that the connection we built is real and that they want to help us for as long as they can. Employed or not, being able to come around, help, provide meals, it just shows us that you enjoy talking with us, seeing us, and hearing about our lives. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably piggyback off of that answer and say just it lets you know that they care and it shows that maybe even the boys had a pretty strong impact on them for them to keep coming back even after just like Dezzmon said, not being employed here anymore. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think when you think of the opposite that would happen where people are just really inconsistent in your life, it can do a lot of damage versus contrasting someone who's consistent can bring a lot of good things. But we'll go around for the last question. We'll start with Antonio and we'll go around, all right? The part about Mr. John's story that really stood out to me, he said it felt like about 1/3 of his whole career, he felt underqualified. So for those listening for this conversation, what are some things that you can do when you feel underqualified to still succeed in the position that God's put you in?
I would say one of the things that you could do, like he was saying, like Mr. Oliver was saying, was leaning on that person like in your corner. If you have someone in your corner, leaning on that person to get your head back straight or just give you more confidence in some ways would help you feel more qualified sometimes.
That's a great point. And one of the things too that's pretty cool is like when you first started, Dezzmon, what grade were you in?
Six.
So many years ago. What grade are you in now?
11.
Okay, so the way things are now or were back then, they're not going to always be that way. And so that's one of the major points, man. I've learned too is like the way it is today isn't the way it's going to be. You know, you ask my wife, me, you look at our house, we laugh sometimes. 37 years ago, the stuff we had in our house, you know, just like 2 pieces of furniture is not that way 37 years later, right? So things will change as well. So don't make it also like it's the end of the world, right? It's like, man, this is the way it is now is the way it's always going to be. Things will change and life will move forward. So yeah, I like that.
I'd say if you feel underqualified, strive to prove to yourself that you are qualified to do whatever it is that you're doing, and like show other people that you have what it takes and that they can't just walk over you. I'd say just do your best, show that you're good enough to do it.
Wise words from Dezzmon. Yeah. But this was an awesome episode. Dezzmon Antonio, thanks so much for helping co-host the show and come up with some great questions.
Like always, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Mr. John, thanks for your wisdom and taking the time out of your day to come hang out with us.
Yeah, you guys made my month. So thank y'all for inviting me back. And once again, man, I just love this organization. Thanks to Monty, obviously, man, good friend, and just what God has done for him and how he's used him. But you guys keep doing what you're doing, keep striving, and I'll see you guys. That's a cool thing, too. I'll be seeing you guys.
And thank you for listening. If you want to check out any of our previous episodes, you can check us out on Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Amazon, faithandfriendsradio.com, and YouTube. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Victory Project podcast. If you believe in changing lives through faith, discipline, and opportunity, then you're in the right place. Keep showing up. Keep being the light. Until next time, remember, victory isn't just a destination. It's a way of life. Learn more at victoryproject.org.